The room was quiet, except for the soft patter of rain against my bedroom window, a gentle rhythm that seemed to pulse with the steady beat of my heart. I had returned home, back to where it all began. Clutching the fragile relic of my grandfather's life, the diary that had led me through the nightmare of the funhouse and into the depths of our family's cursed history. I traced the faded ink with trembling fingers, my eyes drinking in the final entry. The words were barely visible now, the pages yellowed and delicate, but their meaning was as clear as the first time I read them in that twisted mirror maze. To Ellie, the entry began. If you are reading this, then I have failed to protect you from the darkness that haunts our bloodline. Yet within that darkness lies a spark, your courage, your strength. Do not let the shadows consume you. Remember who you are and hold fast to hope. A shiver ran down my spine, but it was not fear. It was the strange comfort of connection, of knowing that even in his absence, my grandfather had watched over me, guiding me through his words. I swallowed hard, my voice barely above a whisper as I read on. The mirrors are not just glass and reflection. They are prisons for souls, traps for the lost and the broken. I was caught within them, but my love for you remains unbroken. You must break the cycle, Ellie. Face your fears, not with despair, but with the light of your heart. Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes, and I blinked them away, unwilling to surrender to the ache. The diary trembled in my hands as I reached deeper into its pages, searching for one last message. And there it was, stuck between the lines like a fragile promise. When the mirrors shatter and the clown fades, know that the evil's hold is not absolute. It lives in the fear we carry, but also in the courage we nurture. Walk forward, my child, with your eyes wide open and your spirit unyielding. A sudden breeze stirred the curtains, and the room seemed to breathe with me. I closed the diary gently, its weight heavy but no longer a burden. From somewhere deep within, a flicker of peace sparked, fragile but undeniable. I reached between the pages and pulled out a faded photograph. It was sepia-toned, edges curled and softened by time. In the image, my grandfather smiled beside the funhouse, the cracked mirrors looming faintly behind him. His eyes held a warmth that transcended the years and sorrows. Holding the photo close, I could almost smell the faint scent of old paper mingled with something like carnival dust, memories of laughter and light before the darkness took hold. The rain softened to a gentle drizzle, and the first pale light of dawn touched the horizon beyond my window. I felt the weight of my journey settle around me, a cloak woven from fear, loss, and survival. But beneath it, I sensed the beginning of something new, a fragile strength, a quiet hope. I pressed my back against the cool wall, closing my eyes to the world for a moment. The silence enveloped me, a balm for my restless soul. I whispered a promise to the shadows, to the memories, to the reflections that had haunted me. I would remember, but I would not be defined by them. The diary's closure was not an end, but a beginning. I was no longer the frightened girl lost in the funhouse mirrors. I was Ellie Morgan, survivor, bearer of a legacy both dark and light. And though the echoes of the clown's laughter might never fully fade, I had found a way to walk forward, my eyes wide open, my spirit unyielding. Outside, the world stirred to life with the dawn, and inside me, a new chapter began. But even as hope took root, a question lingered in the quiet corners of my mind. Could the shadows ever truly be banished, or would they always wait, just beyond the glass, for the next soul to wander too close? The answer was mine to find in the days to come, as I stepped beyond the past and into whatever awaited. For now, though I allowed myself a moment of peace, The diary was closed, but my story was far from over. And somewhere, deep within the shattered funhouse, the mirrors waited. Though the nightmare had ended, the echoes of the funhouse still clung to her mind, its fractured reflections dancing behind her closed eyelids. The weight of what she had endured pressed heavily on her chest, a stubborn ache that no dawn could fully soothe. But in the fragile liminal space between waking and dreaming, a new vision began to take shape. She found herself standing beneath a twilight sky, the horizon painted in muted purples and blues. In the distance, the silhouette of the abandoned amusement park loomed, its rusted rides and crumbling facades softened by a gentle, otherworldly glow that seemed to pulse with a slow, steady heartbeat. The air was thick with the scent of faded memories, the faint sweetness of cotton candy long vanished, the distant echo of laughter tangled with whispers of sorrow. Ellie's footsteps echoed softly across cracked pavement, each step stirring a delicate mist that curled and twisted like smoke. She moved forward, drawn by a presence she could not name. From the shadows cast by flickering carnival lights emerged Maraher form, pale and translucent, shimmering softly as if woven from moonlight itself. Her long hair flowed like liquid silver, framing a face marked by sorrow yet illuminated by a gentle, almost tender smile. Her eyes, deep pools of sadness and hope, met Ellie's with an intensity that stilled the restless storm inside her. "Thank you," Mara's voice drifted like a whispered melody carried on the wind, fragile yet unwavering. "Because of you, the curse weakens. The shadows that haunted this place may finally find rest." Ellie reached out instinctively, her fingers trembling as they brushed against Mara's ethereal hand. The contact was cool, like the touch of a winter breeze, but it sparked warmth deep within her, her fragile flame against the encroaching darkness. Around them, the distorted mirrors that had once trapped countless souls began to crack and fracture, spiderweb lines splintering across their surfaces. From these fractures spilled faint glimmers of light, tiny, flickering orbs ascending gracefully into the night sky, as if freed from long confinement. Ellie watched, breathless, as the spirits rose, their luminous forms dissolving into the stars above. "There is still much to heal," Mara warned softly, her gaze piercing. "But your courage has begun the unraveling. Remember, the light you carry within is stronger than any shadow." Before Ellie could respond, the dream began to dissolve, the edges blurring like ink washed away by rain. Mara's presence lingered, still a fragile beacon in the encroaching gloom. Ellie awoke with a start, the first pale light of dawn filtering gently through her window. The soft chirping of birds outside wove a delicate symphony of new beginnings. Her heart pounded with a cautious hope, tempered by the scars she bore but undiminished in its resolve. She sat up slowly, the weight of her journey pressing down but no longer overwhelming. The diary lay open on her bedside table, its pages whispering secrets of the past and promises of the future. Ellie traced a finger along the worn ink, feeling the steady pulse of her family's legacy beneath her touch. Though the funhouse stood silent and broken, its shadows waiting in the distance. Ellie knew she had taken the first steps toward healing, not just for the park, but for herself. The road ahead was uncertain, fraught with memories and fears that would not easily fade. Yet within her burned a flicker of light, fragile but unyielding. She rose, shoulders squared against the lingering darkness, and stepped into the new day. The battle was far from over, but for the first time in a long while, Ellie dared to hope. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the faintest echo of laughter, soft, distant, and somehow filled with promise. And somewhere in the depths of her heart, Ellie knew that Mara's words were true. The shadows might yet find rest, if only she could hold on to the light. Her eyes were fixed on the cracked mirror hanging crookedly above her dresser, its fractured surface a jagged map of the funhouse's shattered curse. For a moment, the glass seemed to ripple like water disturbed by a stone, and through that trembling veil, a faint figure emerged, a grotesque clown with a porcelain face fractured like the mirror itself. Hollow eyes sucking at the light, and a twisted smile that crawled across its cracked lips. Ellie's breath hitched, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. The clown's reflection flickered, disappearing as quickly as it had come, leaving her staring at nothing but her own pale, wide-eyed face. She reached out a trembling hand, half expecting the glass to pulse beneath her fingers, but it remained cold and solid. The room was still, save for the low hum of the night and the distant whistle of wind threading through the cracks of the aging house. She stepped back, shaking her head as if to clear the cobwebs of fear clinging to her mind. "It's over," she whispered to herself, clutching the diary that had led her into this nightmare. The curse was broken. The clown was defeated. Yet, in the pit of her stomach, a stubborn seed of doubt took root. Days passed, and Ellie tried to return to the rhythm of ordinary life. The sun cast long, golden fingers through her bedroom window, and the world outside bustled with the comforting sounds of normalcy. Children laughing, cars humming, the distant bark of a dog. But the shadows clung to her, and reflections became battlegrounds for her fragile peace. On a chilly afternoon, as Ellie wandered the quiet streets, she caught sight of a shop window's gleaming glass. For a heartbeat, her reflection was not her own. The clown's cracked face leered back, hollow eyes boring into her soul. She blinked hard, and the image snapped back to her cautious gaze. The shopkeeper's smile across the street, oblivious to her sudden pallor. Puddles scattered along the cracked pavement mirrored the grey sky, but within their shallow depths, the clown's grin flickered like a dying flame. Ellie's chest tightened, and she pulled her jacket closer, the weight of unseen eyes pressing down on her. That night, sleep was a fragile veil pierced by nightmares. She awoke to find her reflection in the mirror moving with a terrible autonomy. Her eyes darkened to match the hollow, merciless gaze of the clown. The change lasted only seconds, but it shattered her breath and her will. She backed away, trembling, her mind racing to hold onto the truth she knew, that she was still herself, not the monster lurking in the glass. Tommy's presence was a tether to reality. When she confided in him, the warmth of his steady voice and reassuring grip on her hand offered a balm to her frayed nerves. Yet even in his company, Ellie sensed the clown's echo lurking just beyond sight, a shadow at the edge of her vision, a whisper in the silence. "It's like it never really left," she admitted one evening, her voice barely above a whisper, like it's waiting. Tommy squeezed her hand tighter. "Then we'll be ready, together." But the truth gnawed at her. The malevolent force that had haunted the mirrors was not vanquished so easily. It was a part of the reflections now, a dark pulse beneath the surface of reality itself. The battle between fear and hope was far from over. Ellie closed her eyes, steeling herself for whatever came next. The clown's laughter might have faded, but its echo was a reminder. Some shadows never fully disappear. And within the fractured glass of her soul, the struggle to reclaim the light would endure. As she turned from the mirror one last time that night, the faintest, twisted smile lingered there, a silent promise that the darkness was always watching, waiting for the moment to return. The end was not an end at all, but the beginning of a new fight, one that Ellie was determined to face, no matter the cost. It felt strange, almost foreign to wake up in the quiet safety of my home after everything Iddy endured. The nightmares had lessened, no longer clawing at the edges of my mind with the same ferocity, but they hadn't disappeared entirely. They lurked in the shadows, like distant echoes of laughter from that cursed funhouse. I sat up slowly, the weight of exhaustion still pressing down on me. My gaze landed on the shelf by the window, where I had placed my grandfather's diary the night before. It sat there like a relic of a battle won, but not forgotten. The cryptic pages had guided me through a labyrinth of mirrors, illusions, and fears. Now, they felt like a bridge between the past and my uncertain future. The door creaked open, and Tommy slipped inside quietly, his familiar presence easing some of the tension coiling in my chest. "Morning," he said softly, his usual grin tempered by concern. "Morning," I replied, careful to keep my voice steady. "Thanks for coming by." He pulled up a chair and sat beside me, eyes searching mine. "You don't have to face this alone, Ellie." For a moment, I let myself believe it, that maybe, just maybe, I could find a way out of the darkness with someone by my side. We spent the morning talking about everything and nothing. About the town, the faded carnival rides, and the strange, twisted reflections that had haunted my dreams. Tommy listened without judgment, his support a balm to my battered soul. Outside, the world moved on, indifferent to the horrors that had unfolded in the abandoned park. But inside me, a subtle shift was underway. The walls I had built around myself, brick by brick, forged from fear and isolation, began to crumble. I found myself reaching out, tentatively at first, toward the people and places I had once taken for granted. In the days that followed, I returned to the diary again and again. Each entry was a thread weaving together the story of my family and the park's dark curse. As I read, I felt a strange comfort in understanding the legacy I had inherited. It wasn't just a burden, it was a part of me. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low, I sat on the porch with Tommy, watching the sky bleed into shades of pink and purple. The gentle rustling of leaves was a soothing counterpoint to the turmoil inside me. "Do you think it's really over?" I asked, breaking the silence. He looked at me, his eyes steady and sure. "Maybe not completely, but you're stronger than whatever's left." His words grounded me, reminding me that while the darkness might never fully disappear, I didn't have to be consumed by it. I could carry the scars without letting them define me. That night, alone in my room, I found myself drawn once more to the mirror. For so long, it had been a gateway to terror portal to distorted reflections and lurking horrors. But now, as I gazed into it, I saw something different. Not a fractured, fearful girl, but someone who had survived. Someone who had faced down nightmares and lived to tell the tale. I whispered to my reflection, "I'm still here." The glass shimmered faintly, and for a fleeting moment, I thought I saw Mara's pale, sorrowful eyes looking back. A reminder that hope could endure even in the darkest places. The journey ahead was uncertain. The shadows of the park and the clown's echo might never fully fade. But for the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of something stronger than fear, resilience. And that was enough to keep moving forward. As dawn crept over the horizon, casting light on a world scarred but still standing, I knew my story was far from over. But now, I was ready to write the next chapter on my own terms, with courage, and with the knowledge that even broken reflections could hold beauty. The past would always be a part of me, but it no longer controlled me. I was rebuilding, piece by fragile piece, and this time I was not alone. Around her, the skeletal frames of roller coasters and Ferris wheels groaned softly in the breeze. Their once vibrant colors faded into peeling rust and dust. The park was a graveyard of memories, each creaking ride a relic of laughter and joy now swallowed by silence. Ellie's footsteps crunched on the scattered leaves and broken glass littering the cracked pavement as she hesitated at the threshold. The sky above was a bruised canvas of purples and deep blues, the last light of day bleeding away into encroaching night. Her breath came in slow, misty clouds, and she wrapped her arms around herself, feeling the weight of everything she had endured pressing heavily on her chest. The funhouse loomed ahead, a twisted monument to the darkness she had faced and, for now, survived. Its once gleaming mirrors were cracked and dulled, reflecting only fragmented shards of the dying light. Yet even in their fractured surfaces, Ellie could sense the echoes of something ancient and malevolent lurking just beyond perception. The air around the building was thick with a strange tension, as if the walls themselves remembered the horrors etched into their glass. A faint sound drifted through the stillness, soft, warped laughter that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere all at once. Ellie's heart clenched as the sound tangled with the rustling of dry leaves, weaving a haunted melody that wrapped around her like a shroud. She swallowed hard, recalling the countless moments spent trapped within those mirrors, hunted by shadows that wore her face and whispered her fears back at her. For a long moment, she stood frozen, eyes fixed on the cracked doorway of the funhouse. She could almost see the twisted smile of the clown lurking in the depths of those shattered reflections, a grotesque reminder that some darkness could never be fully banished. It was not the physical form that frightened her now, but the intangible weight of unseen eyes watching, waiting. Slowly, Ellie turned away, her footsteps heavy as she retraced the path back toward the gates. The park seemed to exhale around her, a slow, mournful sigh that rustled the leaves and stirred the shadows along the broken fences. As she walked, a shard of broken glass caught the moonlight and flickered with a pale, eerie glow. In its fractured surface, Ellie glimpsed a fleeting image, the cracked porcelain face of the clown. Its hollow eyes filled with endless despair and a twisted smile that lingered just long enough to send a chill down her spine before fading into the darkness. She didn't look back again. Outside the park, the night stretched vast and silent. Ellie's breath steadied, though the memories clung stubbornly to her skin like a second shadow. She was free, yet the experience had carved new fractures within her soul scars, invisible but no less real. The abandoned amusement park stood quiet, a sleeping beast whose breath was held in frozen anticipation. Beneath the rust and ruin, the funhouse's mirrors awaited their next visitor, their surfaces shimmering faintly with the promise of distorted realities and whispered nightmares. Ellie's journey through the funhouse had ended, but the story of the park's darkness was far from over. Somewhere deep within those shattered reflections, the clown's curse lingered, a shadow waiting patiently to rise again, and the silence of the park was its voice. As Ellie disappeared into the night, a cold wind stirred the broken leaves, carrying with it the faintest echo of a child's laughter, twisted, warped, and waiting. The park was silent, but silence, Ellie knew now, was never empty. What came next, only the shadows could tell. Ellie stepped cautiously forward, her shoes whispering softly against the cracked tiles as she approached the towering mirror that loomed before her. It was unlike any she had seen before, cracked, fragmented, yet almost alive in its restless shimmer. Her multiple distorted reflections flickered and danced across its surface, each one a haunting fragment of her fears, memories, and the fractured pieces of her soul. She paused, staring deeply into the fractured glass. There was the girl who had arrived here months ago, wide-eyed and trembling with uncertainty. Beside her, the reflection of a braver version winked with defiance, Another shimmered with tears, raw and open, while a fourth curled in a silent scream. The fractured mirror did not just reflect her face. It reflected all the truths she had hidden away, the shadows she had tried to outrun. A cold shiver ran down Ellie's spine as the room seemed to pulse with a gentle, ethereal glow. From the corner of her eye, she caught a pale figure materializing Mara. The ghostly apparition stepped beside her, her translucent form shimmering with sorrow and kindness. Mara's sorrowful eyes met Ellie's, and though she said nothing aloud, the message was clear. She was not alone. This silent presence, once a prisoner of the funhouse's curse, now offered fragile hope. Ellie reached out slowly, her trembling fingers brushing the cold, cracked surface of the mirror. The glass rippled beneath her touch, distorting her reflections into swirling shapes. Yet, instead of fear, a faint smile touched her lips. For the first time, she embraced the imperfections, the fractures, and the shadows held within those shimmering images. They were parts of her, scars, earned through pain and courage alike. The funhouse around her seemed to breathe, the oppressive darkness retreating just slightly as the first rays of dawn filtered through shattered windows. The air shifted, carrying a whisper of renewal. Yet, beneath that fragile light, a lingering unease remained, a reminder that the battle between light and darkness was far from over. Ellie drew a steadying breath and stepped back from the mirror. The reflections, fractured but unbroken, gazed back at her with a quiet resilience. She had faced the shadows within, accepted the weight of her past, and, though scarred, she was ready to move forward. Mara's figure faded softly, her eyes twinkling with gratitude before dissolving into the morning light. Outside, the world waited, uncertain, haunted, but alive. Ellie knew the funhouse's curse had been broken, but the echoes of the clown's malevolence lingered in the corners of her mind. The reflections would not vanish overnight, and the scars would remain etched deep within her soul. Yet, in that moment, she understood something vital. True strength was not the absence of fear, but the courage to face it, to hold it, and to keep walking forward. As she stepped away from the mirror's embrace, a soft breeze stirred the cracked carnival banners outside. The abandoned amusement park, silent and still, seemed to watch, waiting for its next story, its next visitor. But Ellie was no longer the frightened girl who had entered the funhouse. She was a survivor, a bearer of light in the shadows, and a reflection unbroken by the darkness. Her journey was far from over, but for the first time, Ellie felt ready to face whatever came next, armed with the scars and the strength forged in the depths of the funhouse's mirrors. The reflections would follow her, whispering their truths, but she would no longer be afraid to meet them eye to eye. And with that, the dawn fully broke, casting long golden beams across the fractured glass, illuminating the path ahead, uncertain but hers to walk.